First thing you should know, I'm not going to be nice to this game. Donkey Kong 64 has charisma, creative ideas, and hard work behind it, but it also has issues that turn the experience from a charming 3D platformer into an endless slog. I give it no passes for being part of an iconic franchise, or coming from a talented studio. A game from a proven developer should be looked at even more critically, because there's no room for the mistakes of an inexperienced team. The consensus around Donkey Kong 64 is far from pristine. There are those that hate and those that love the game. I've learned that whether criticizing a game people love or enjoying a game people hate, you end up with hordes of keyboard warriors ready to send condemnations, insults, and threats. Lately, there's been a rise of anti-fan communities, often in the form of snark subreddits. These are dedicated to the hatred of a particular content creator, cataloging their wicked deeds and attempting to spur them into more. Having one of these pages created about me isn't a matter of if, but when. I'm not apprehensive about putting out unpopular opinions, like how the intermission segments in Mario Kart World are actually good, or how Mario and Luigi Brothership is more boring than my grandpa's funeral. Dishing out hot takes is fun, but it puts a target on my back. So I've decided that rather than getting hit by the snark wave, I'd rather grab a surfboard and ride it. So, I'd like to announce that I have created my own snark subreddit, r/JacovelliSnark. Link available in the description below. Jacovelli Snark will be the place for you to air any grievances about my content. So have fun. Post about how wrong I am that Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth is a B-tier Yakuza game, that I should stop with these reviews and just make another series about Mario Galaxy 2, or how my content has fallen off. Yeah, I peaked with that Kirby Tilt and Tumble video. It was all downhill from there. And if you're going to send me any skulls, can you please paint them first? I need decorations for my Dia de los Muertos party. So with that out of the way, let's talk about Donkey Kong. DK64 occupies the thin middle space in the N64 library. It's not as beloved as some titles, but not bad enough to place on an uncreative listicle. Super Mario 64? Groundbreaking. Ocarina of Time? Masterpiece. Donkey Kong 64? You might like it. After pulling an M&M and dropping 3 back-to-back classics with the Donkey Kong Country series, Rare decided to go bigger on the new console. The Nintendo 64 was not the place for 2D platformers, or RPGs, or any game bigger than 64 megabytes. Donkey Kong 64 was released on November 22nd, 1999, and remains the only 3D Donkey Kong game. Oh shoot. Sorry, gotta take this. Hello? Yeah, that's what I said. Bonanza? How do you spell that? Yeah, right. Spam callers. There's a lot of criticisms you can throw at Donkey Kong 64, but one thing you can't say is that it's unambitious. 5 playable characters, 8 levels, a decent-sized hub world, upgradable weapons and abilities, mini-games, arcade games, boss fights, voiced cutscenes, and nearly 4,000 collectibles? The only thing that DK64 didn't have is restraint. But while the game's scale might be what's most impressive about it, its ambition often results in its downfall. Playing Donkey Kong 64 feels like trekking back and forth through the aisles of a grocery store, struggling to find the one thing you're looking for, then realizing there's something else you need when you finally do. Just when you think you've done everything in a level, something else pops up that's on the other side of the map. There's stages I like quite a bit. Jungle Japes works as a breezy intro level, Fungi Forest has a clever gimmick with the day and night mechanic, and Creepy Castle is something I wouldn't have expected from a Donkey Kong game, but the contrast works well. Then there were stages I was not a fan of. Frantic Factory has an annoying layout, and each part looks too similar. Angry Aztec is the obligatory boring desert level, and Gluey Galleon I was ready to get out of the second I arrived. If you're an aspiring game designer and are thinking of adding an underwater level to your game, I have some advice. Don't. Each stage has many collectibles. There's ones that replenish, like ammo for your firearms and crystals for your special abilities, plus banana coins, which can be used to purchase upgrades from Cranky, Funky, and Candy Kong. These are all useful, but there's 2 items that really matter. bananas and golden bananas. Golden bananas are like the stars in Super Mario 64. They're awarded for completing challenges and are used to unlock the next world. The individual bananas might seem similar to Mario's coins, but they're actually far more important. They have to be collected to unlock each level's boss, who has to be beaten in order to progress. So the game is gated by both golden bananas and regular bananas. You need 100 golden ones to beat the game, and with 25 of them in each level, they're plentiful. With the regular bananas, you start from scratch every time. You can't bring out some from one stage and use them in another. This means you have to desperately search for every one. You turn into a banana fiend, grasping at them like a dog hunting for table scraps. This aspect makes Donkey Kong 64 feel very different from other platformers. In most, like the Mario ones, the small items are nice, but ignoring them won't restrict your progress. Here, you need every collectible you can get your hands on. You don't just look for the main objectives, you scour every corner for each knick-knack and doodad. This put me into a state of mind I wasn't expecting. I didn't dislike it, but it's something you have to get used to. Another game that gates progress with the small items is Banjo-Kazooie, with musical notes. This is one of many similarities the games share. Of course, they're both made by Rare, they follow a very similar structure, the controls are almost identical, they use pads for special abilities, and most importantly, both of their villains are green. Donkey Kong 64 could be considered the much desired Banjo 3E. Okay, it actually came out between Banjo-Kazooie and Banjo-Tooie, but Banjo 1.5e just doesn't have the same ring to it. Although, there is one major difference between Banjo-Kazooie and DK64. Who you play as. Banjo-Kazooie is called Banjo-Kazooie because you play as Banjo and Kazooie. Donkey Kong 64 is called Donkey Kong 64 because you play as 64 different Kongs. Okay, I'm off by 59, but it feels like playing as 64 Kongs. You've got Donkey Kong, of course. You can't have a Donkey Kong game where you don't play as Donkey Kong. Oh. And then Diddy Kong, fresh off the brain-melting adventure of Diddy Kong Racing. But there's 3 more Kongs, who didn't have the staying power that Donkey and Diddy have maintained over the years. Lanky Kong, who's at least achieved meme status, Tiny Kong, who everyone wants to play as, and the star of the Mario movie, Chunky Kong. They all have unique powers, some distinctive, some arbitrary. Lanky can use his long arms to climb up steep hills. Tiny can hover with their ponytails, and Chunky can lift things the other Kongs couldn't, even with months of training and a reliable supply of TRT. But that's where what makes the Kongs unique ends. The rest of their abilities are the same things with different coats of paint. All Kongs have firearms which function the same way, the only difference being they're used to press specific buttons. They all play different musical instruments on their specified pads to activate things in a level, but all that separates them is the sound they make. And of course, the most egregiously pointless difference is the items they pick up. Each Kong can collect a different color of item. Donkey has yellow, Diddy has red, Lanky has blue, Tiny has purple, and Chunky has green. Bananas and banana coins appear in these colors, and only the Kong of the corresponding color can collect them. For all others, they appear transparent, and you have to switch to the Kong of the right color to pick them up. This part of the game is where DK64 gets the most criticized, but I don't hate it. It can be frustrating to come across bananas you're unable to collect, but the Kong barrels are never too far, and often a certain color of bananas are placed to lead that character to a golden banana objective. It's not elegant, but it works as a way to provide a sense of direction. So my problem isn't how the items are divided up among the Kongs, but the Kongs themselves. Aside from Donkey and Diddy, the rest of them are superfluous. They might have different jump heights and running speeds, but in the end, they all play almost identically. They have nearly the same moves, and many of their special abilities could be swapped out for one another. Chunky can become invisible, but why shouldn't any other Kong be able to? Same for Tiny shrinking or Diddy getting a jetpack. DK64 should have gotten rid of these 3 hanger-on Kongs and only had Donkey with Diddy attached to his back, like in the newer country games. It might have been too close to Banjo-Kazooie, but you know what else it would have been? Better. Because Donkey Kong 64 shows glimmers of brilliance, but wears thin fast. The first 30 minutes of each level is fantastic. You're exploring around, discovering cool areas, and finding items to help you. But then, the honeymoon stage wears off and the fun becomes work. Coming across collectibles naturally turns into desperately scavenging for them. It's then less of a sense of discovery and more wanting to get out and move on. I go back and forth between thinking that when a player looks up a walkthrough, whether that's the failure of the player or the game. I don't think designers should be blamed for the player base's growing in attention, but there's also no lack of truly obtuse objectives in games. When you get stuck and look up what to do, there's two feelings you can have when reading the solution. Oh my god, that was obvious. How am I so dumb? Or, what? How would I have ever thought of that? This game is bullshit. So in the case of Donkey Kong 64, is looking up a walkthrough the failure of the player or the game? And I've come to the conclusion, I don't care, I just need a guide. If you've beaten DK64 with no walkthrough, congratulations, you're a better man than me. But when I hit a wall, I'd rather Google the solution than just give up entirely, or waste hours trying to figure out what to do. I try to give every roadblock I come across a fair shake, and figure out the answer before resorting to a guide. However, my tolerance for obscure solutions gets lower the older the game is. And for an N64 game, let's just say I'll take less nonsense than Gordon Ramsay. Finding a good walkthrough for this game practically needs a walkthrough itself. Newer games may have plenty of high-quality, streamlined guides, but older ones are a different story. Many walkthroughs of titles from the N64 era were made around that time, which is cool from a historical perspective, but not exactly useful today. I appreciate the work of the GameFAQs warriors to make these walkthroughs, but searching through a guide that's purely text-based is sometimes more painful than the actual challenges. In order to find the info on the section you need, you have to practically read through the entire thing and follow the guide maker along to where you are. I need pictures, not an endless scroll through a glaring white webpage. Video guides can be helpful, but unless the creator has painstakingly marked each challenge with individual timestamps, you fall into the same trap of the text-based guides, spending an eternity scrubbing through to find the part you need. But then I found it, the perfect Donkey Kong 64 walkthrough. Looking back, it was the most obvious choice, hiding right under my nose the whole time. I'm talking about the official Donkey Kong 64 strategy guide from Nintendo Power. This isn't just the best walkthrough for DK64 that exists, it's the best walkthrough for DK64 that could exist. Each objective is marked with a helpful description, plenty of pictures, and maps with labels and icons telling you the location of every collectible. Donkey Kong 64 is a complicated game, with all the items for different characters, but this strategy guide lays it out perfectly. There's maps of each level for every character, clearly displayed with all the information you need. With this guide, you'll never be at a loss for what to do. It's excellent throughout, from the final boss all the way back to the very first stage, with the objective, Free Diddy. Oh, no. But as helpful as a guide can be, it can't beat the game for you. It can tell you where to go and what to do, but doing it is up to you. A walkthrough will help you find the golden bananas, but getting them is another story. Many golden bananas are locked behind minigames, the difficulty of which spans from mildly annoying to downright infuriating. The best ones involve running through a maze, but many take place inside a barrel, and they'll make you want to look inside another kind of barrel. These minigames specialize in concentrated N64 90s jank. You might have to swim around and collect coins while dealing with the horrid camera, shoot Kremlings that hardly give you any reaction time in the beginning, or the worst one, Big Bug Bash. This involves swatting flies before the countdown runs out, with the most frustrating hit detection I've seen in a Nintendo game. Failing will force you to try over and over again, while playing the torturously annoying music that makes me feel the developers are playing a twisted joke on us. These games and others are aggravating, painful, grueling, but worst of all, necessary. Yes, there's enough golden bananas available to skip some of them, but with how many are locked behind these ridiculous things, you'll have to trudge through at least a few. When reflecting on an older game, it's easy to fall into the trap of only remembering the highlights, not the full experience. Plenty of games are fun if you just fire them up and mess around for a bit, but actually trying to beat them is an entirely different story. If you turn on Donkey Kong 64, listen to the DK rap, and explore around Jungle Japes for a while, I have no doubt that you'll leave with a positive impression. But playing DK64 and beating DK64 are two entirely separate beasts. Again, the first half hour of each level is a great time, but when the burden of completion kicks in, the sunshine fades away. Donkey Kong is a Nintendo character who's often gotten the short end of the vine. Despite being an outright icon, the number of quality games that he stars in over recent years can be counted on one hand, even after a sawing accident. Donkey Kong Country Returns and Tropical Freeze are fantastic, some of the greatest games of all time, but that's all he's got. He hasn't played a leading role in Nintendo's lineup since the N64 days. Much of that probably amounts to Rare's acquisition by Microsoft, but still, it's Donkey Kong. He's a legend. He deserves more than this. The fact that DK64 has remained as the only 3D Donkey Kong game for so long has put it into a mythical status. It's almost more a relic than a game, but sadly one that doesn't live up to its legendary position. Donkey Kong 64 is remembered as many things, some good, some bad, but after playing it to completion with hardly a banana missed, I can say that's all it should remain as, a memory.